Good evening, Uganda. You're listening to 933 KFM. This is the Friday Hot Seat, and I'm joined by an eminent panel of journalists. Standing in for Andrew Mwenda is me, Kwezi, Tabaro. Today we delve into all matters State of the Nation address that was delivered by President Yoweri Museveni yesterday, where among other things he singled out for attack this very media house, our paper, the Daily Monitor, and NMG as a group. He called us rumor mongers and all manner of things and accusations. But Mr. President, we love you so much, and I think you love our paper that much. That's why you are always quoting it. When we have time, we'll also delve into the censure motion in Parliament that seems to have stalled, as well as coalition talks in South Africa as the African National Congress for the first time loses its grip on power. Your copy of the Saturday Monitor, the president's favorite paper, is already out on the streets. Konyi guards reveal how he killed his deputy. Buy your copy of the Saturday Monitor and find out how and why the LRA leader, Joseph Konyi's ex-bodyguard, say that he executed his deputy, Vincent Oti, in Garamba in the Democratic Republic of Congo after Dr. Vincent Oti attempted to overthrow him and take over leadership of the insurgent group. We also have a story on how an ex-IGP's relative lost suit to save 6,600 acre estate. And of course, in politics, in your paper tomorrow, you also have a story on NUP's constitutional feud that remains a stumbling block for this young party. Joining me in studio today are the usual panelists. I have Derek Wandera from the Nation Media Group. I have Frank Mujimba. I have Jimmy Achalam. And today, appearing on the show for the first time, I have a special guest, and that is political analyst Isaac Kayonde. Isaac, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Great. I want to start with you, Derek. This love and hate relationship between President Yoweri Museveni and the Nation Media Group. What did you make of the president's address?
You've asked me two questions in one.
Please.
So I'll delve, I think, into the first one of the love and hate between President Museveni and NMG.
NMG's Nation Media Group, the publishers of the Daily Monitor and the owners of KFM.
KFM, NTV and all that. So the day before the State of the Nation's address, Daily Monitor had a very colorful page. It had
the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes, the good, the bad, the ugly, and said, President Museveni, these are the issues you need to talk about when you address the nation tomorrow. And the following day, the president, of course, came and gave whatever he was giving us in the nation, in the State of the Nation's address. And today, the Daily Monitor has the best cover that you can ever have for a publication.
For our dear listeners who haven't had a chance to look at today's Daily Monitor, could you please describe it?
It has.
The headline is State of the Nation.
State of the Nation and a blank page with a flag.
So what does that mean?
State of the Nation and a blank page. There is a small kicker there, but with a blank page. And
so in essence, you guys are saying the president didn't say anything of substance in the State of the Nation.
After the 2016 elections, when we were eagerly waiting for the results, and finally they were released by the EC, one of our cartoonist, Chris Ogon, went and drew a cartoon of President Museveni in a labor suit. And after that, the nurse who in that picture is Vyawakama came out with a baby and said, "It is a baby." So that means there's a lot of predictability about President Museveni's speeches one of these days. we've seen him on several addresses, several things, several times when he comes out and he is going to address the nation on either economy or is going to address on security and stuff. I have told, I think we even discussed, like, what do we expect from President Museveni's address next week, and we, at least the biggest part of the panel was very sure that.
But I want you to stick to the things that he talks about yesterday.
Yeah, I think the things he talked about yesterday, and it's where I'm coming from, what we expect him to speak about. He spoke about, for me, what like stands out for me is something that I think the other people have been saying stands out for me. The fact that he is trying to insinuate that we have more production of goods in terms of sugar.
Is he insinuating he's using government statistics?
Okay, he's used government statistics. We have production of sugar, iron bars, tea, coffee, cement and all that, and he gives figures of how much we use here in the country and what is left in terms of excess. And he is asking, he gave the rhetoric throughout, who is going to use this, how are we going to use this, and stuff like that. And I know he has been having a very deep song of export promotion and import substitution. And if we have so much in excess that we are producing, we certainly expect to export it. But for instance, we are not the best exporters of timber, at least in the region, or iron bars. We are not the best exporters of sugar. Probably coffee we are, and the other things. But has that propelled us to where we expect to be? I think no. And do we need to produce more? Yes. He seems to suggest that we are producing enough to keep us either where we are, or whatever is left has failed to push us to where we should be. And for me, that would be the question from him: what is being done then? What comes next after that?
Jimmy, what did you make of the President's State of the Union?
The President's address was, if you don't have a biased mind, there was some substance in it.
And what was the substance?
Explaining all this wealth creation, talking about federation.
This is the East African Federation.
Yes. Pan-Africanism, all these things. But it's been going on for a long time. People expect more, than just talking, action. Yeah, so if you listen to, like, if you don't know about the past, you just, maybe a foreigner coming, his speech was a good speech. But some aspects, especially that now he came, I think corruption, it was a very difficult one for him to, but he came out to explain some things, talking about people who make mistakes, people who are dishonest. I think he's also caught up in a trap. He's thinking about the next election, how do we deal with this? But people are so expectant, they want to hear something about, I've been hearing this. You remember one time we were here in the studio and we were talking about this American guy who came to State House and the president seemed puzzled. And then we said, who are those people who keep going to, and they are gatekeepers who, like assessment team said, there are people who ask for a cut. And the president admitted it this time. That means, does that mean that is it for the first time that he's getting to know these things? Or the noise is too much that he has to at least explain something about the corruption? And when he talked about corruption, he singled out that there's a racket in the ministry, the accounting officers. But he also talked about political actors, which he didn't explain in detail. So who could those political
do you think he had the speaker in mind?
Well, that is the puzzling thing. So, the speaker can still, because you're not explicitly talked about, but it leaves you hanging. When he talks about political actors, what does it mean? Some people will condemn and say, you're not coming outright to single out the individuals.
The monitor says that President Museveni was acting like Pontius Pilate, that he washed his hands clean and said, look, these are the people I have to work with.
It's difficult.
Yes. So you think Sabalwany is surrendering to the corrupt and saying, look, there's not much I can do about the corrupt in my government?
It's just the usual politics. He understands, he's thinking about much more the election, but he also has to please some people. That is, he's talking about it. But what excited me the most is that article, the economy needs fixing. That was an article by Daniel Kalinaki.
And he spent quite a lot of time dwelling on it. Yes.
But that shows that he picks interest in this paper and reads it seriously. It's just not any other paper.
he didn't. For all his address, I didn't see a reference to, sorry to say, the New Vision or any of the other papers, right?
Never.
So Don Wanyama, my friend, must be in a spot of bother. But
someone was saying that you keep your enemy, your friends close, but your enemy is close. I don't know what he meant by that.
Yeah.
It seems to. Like he knows the monitor does a great job, and so he'll always pick it up. And I don't know if it was choreographed, because that he must have just picked the paper when it was.
But it was excellent coverage of the lead up to the State of the Nation address by the monitor, I should say. It was not just Daniel Kalnaki's article; there were a series.
No, there was so many. There was, I think, 8 or 10 pages of State of the Nation, which is excellent.
Isaac, what did you make of the State of the Nation address?
Well, my
hits and misses.
The hits and misses. I didn't think the president delivered a State of the Nation address.
But what did he deliver?
You wanted it. The one thing I like about President Museveni, he stays true to character. Daily Monitor put a lot of emphasis going into this State of the Nation. They wanted to direct his mind to certain things. They wanted the State of the Nation to be addressed the way they felt it should be. Now, he stayed true to character, gave you a bit of history, gave you more. The speech was more ideological, if anything. It was an ideological speech, not a State of the Nation speech, in the sense that I'd expect the State of the Nation, because it happens every year, it's an accountability speech. He didn't offer us accountability in terms of
but he talks about our exports to the region, to the Council.
But I would what I have seen other presidents do is that they say, okay, in this year we raised exports by so much. Number of jobs created were this much. That kind of thing. But not to take away anything from him, he gave a speech which he felt was appropriate for
the audience at the timing.
At the timing, and that's for me where there's a disconnect. The disconnect is the expectation vis-a-vis what he presents. Now he probably does this at the pre-budget speech, but he for me he did not deliver it in the way that we expected. That didn't take away anything from. It didn't take away anything from the good overview of the economy.
The economy that he got.
So,
Frank Mjimba, I want to bring you in, especially on the issue of corruption. There's been a series of exhibitions. The president has written several letters to the IGG, to the speaker, questioning her about certain properties that she's alleged to own in the United Kingdom. The speaker was sanctioned by two of Uganda's biggest partners and allies, the UK and the US government. So certainly Ugandans expected him to pronounce himself at least on those sanctions and on corruption generally. But he seemed to skirt the issue. He spoke of generalities and never really went down into the specifics.
Because as I come to that, I think for the part of corruption, I think if you've been following, you've been seeing how the president has been following up on this case, writing letters and instructing.
Yeah, but Ugandans had him before them yesterday, and they wanted him to reiterate the very things he was writing in the letters.
But he instructed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to investigate and then return back to him. Maybe they have not conclusively gotten information to bring to President so that he can communicate to the country. But I also wanted to weigh in on on the state of the nation address. Because there's so many things that are going on in this country. Let me talk about the area where I come from. We are battling the challenge of foot and mouth disease. When you go to Karamoja, maybe they are battling cattle rustling and then hunger. When you come here to Kampala, there is crime that is going on. So many things are going on, and also corruption that is everything.
Frank, I want you to hold your point. We'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, more of this discussion.
Okay.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
933 KFM.
KFM's Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back from the break. You're listening to 933 KFM. This is the Friday edition of the Hot Seat. Standing in for Andrew Mwenda is me, Kwezi Tabaro, and today my panel and I are discussing the State of the Nation address that was delivered by President Yoweri Museveni yesterday at the Kololo ceremonial grounds. The President used the national address to praise embattled Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Anita Among, who has been a victim of sanctions by both the UK and the US. And President Museveni also attacked activists involved in exposing corruption, calling them foreign agents. He also singled out a racket within the heart of government that he said is responsible for inflating ministry budgets. Much as the Daily Monitor, and I'm sure many Ugandans had raised some key concerns that they thought President Yoweri Museveni would address, including the cost of living, the increasing incidences of crime in Kampala, and the heavy rains that are causing floods across the country, and the reducing quality of social services. President Yoweri Museveni seemed to suggest that Ugandans need to keep calm and carry on working and watch out for what he called talking cows. In studio I have Frank Mjimba, Jimmy Achalam, Derek Wandera, and special guest Isaac Kayode. Yes, Kayonde. Before we went into the break, you were making your point on corruption. So,
Kwezi, I was telling you about the state of the nation address, that there are so many things that are happening in the country, and you cannot fit all of them into the presidential state of address. So, and even there is no law that directs the president or commits the president to speak to particular things. He has the
no one is saying that the president broke the law. What we are saying is that the president did not address the issues that Ugandans had at heart.
Okay, so Kwezi, I found I find Museveni a visionary leader, first of all, and also
I thought that is not in doubt since Ugandans have kept re-electing him for all these years.
There are some who do not believe in that, Kwezi. I must tell you, even here in this studio. So Kwezi, I think when you look at the chronology or the history that President Museveni gave, I think it was so important, because even in normal life, if you know where you are coming from, you know where you are and you know where you're going, then it becomes easier for you to get to wherever you're going.
Now, what does that say about the President Yoweri Museveni's address? Because I can assure you, almost every address, every opportunity he gets,
yes, it is important for you to continue remembering.
Yes, he talks about the East African community and the missed opportunity in 1963. Because he keeps referencing a copy of the Uganda Argus.
Allow me make my point,
yes.
So, for example, if he says that in 1986 Uganda had a GDP of let's say $5 billion US dollars, and today it is about 56 point something billion dollars. So, what difference does it make when he says maybe last year it was this and then today is this? So, but this is what I really think that is so logical about his speech. So he tells you about the three historic commissions of the NRA, and then the four principles of NRM.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is not an NRM lecture, and our listeners also need to be respected. Because we're sticking to the issues. Of course, the NRA documents are there and have been there for years. So we're not learning anything new by talking about it. But I'm saying the president's stance on corruption.
Okay, maybe if you want to
and I'm not even limiting it to corruption, but it could be other issues, crime, for example. At the tail end of his speech, he thanked the security services for having secured the millions of Ugandans who went to Namgongo. Well and good, but we've seen videos of Ugandans being assaulted on the streets of Kampala.
Because of course there are cameras, but if you also turn the cameras the other parts of the world, you'll see what is happening there, and you would wonder.
And we're acknowledging that we're able to capture the incidents on camera, but the reason we installed those cameras is so we can be able to not only see what's happening but also apprehend the criminals.
Okay, so you want me to talk about corruption?
No, not to talk about corruption. I asked you for your take on the President's State of the Nation address. You led me into a lecture on NRM's fundamentals. but maybe I should ask Isaac to.
If I can explain this, it's more like we know the issues. He didn't address those issues.
Precisely, that's the point. Yes,
it was on purpose.
Why? What was the purpose?
The purpose is that he gave a speech in which he thought that was appropriate at the time. Now, you could say that yes, security is there's issues with security, there are issues with corruption and everything. But even when you listened to him, in his speech, he kept talking about relating those ideologies that he's talking about to our present and current situation. When you talk about things like, say, security, he was very, very clear that if the East Africa had one army, all these skirmishes and everything and wars and things would not happen. So he's trying to relate with that. The problem we have again is that you and I come from a generation where we want things done quick and clear. He comes from a generation where he thinks that the grand picture needs to be seen. So for him at this point, he's a more strategic leader. He's bothered by the strategic things than the small micro issues.
Isaac, I'm sorry to cut you short. I think President Yoweri Museveni is certainly in many ways also lost in his dreams, because first and foremost, he's the elected president of Uganda, not of this East African idea that exists in his head.
Yeah.
So his primary audience is Uganda, not those East Africans have not even elected him president. Yes, East African integration is very important, but at the end of the day, he's the president of Uganda. And the mandate he exercises is that of the president of Uganda. Maybe in future he will be president of East Africa, and he can talk about the importance of one East African army.
I also want to, and I want you to give him the benefit of doubt because of the longevity that he has had in power. That he has realized that, look, some of the issues that we are facing today are beyond what we may think. I remember the time he went to, after the death of after the shootings that were happening in Kawesa, and then he went to Parliament, and he gave the 10 steps. It was not a State of Nation address. It was an issue that he was trying to address. He gave a list of 10 things, whether they were
cameras, that's the issue.
Number plates and everything. And everybody, those who were skewed to always ridiculing his thoughts, said, cameras now, what are those going to do and all that? Do we even have the technology? It was such an out of touch thing. Today, all of us are going to look through those cameras. When you're robbed on the street, you go to police to get a video. When you're with these videos that you see that people are creating. So for me, it may not have been the event that he chose to present those issues, but he's not lost on the fact that
But Kwezi, I wanted to criticize. I wanted to criticize him. You just cut me short. Yes, I wanted to criticize him because
in a minute, because this show is very short.
Let's talk about the prosperity of the people of Africa, or you can bring it closer and say, particularly Ugandans. So he talks about where every adult should produce a service or good that should be sold in order to obtain income. So he tells you that yes, you can produce, but you cannot sell to maybe your tribesmen. So you have to. It brings us to another factor of patriotism, of loving all Ugandans, because whatever you produce, you'll sell to other Ugandans, and then Pan-Africanism to if you produce intensively, maybe it might not be consumed only in Uganda, but it can also be consumed across border in other countries. But now this is where I would want to criticize him. Now there are factors of production, and I would like to talk about maybe capital. If you're telling Ugandans to produce, this is some young girl or boy who has come from university, and they would like to access capital to be able to produce and sell. The cost of capital is really high, that this person is, and also the things that you really need to access this capital are very expensive and so hard to get. So that is one of the challenges. But
so your criticism is what?
My criticism is that the factors of production here in Uganda that can enable someone to produce and then sell whatever they are saying is so expensive. So if government could rein in, because he talks about these programs, PDM, Bonaba Gagaware, and I would think it would be better if all these funds that are channeled or branched to all these different programs, if there was maybe one, let's say, an agricultural bank that is put in place, and people are borrowing at at low interest rates, let's say below 10%. That would be easier, because people would go and access this money and produce and also add value onto the goods and services that they have, so, to be able to sell. But also on the part of corruption.
Well, we don't have that much time. But Derek Wandera, I wanted to bring you in. You know, sticking with the media, did the president's address yesterday renew your hope in our role as the fourth estate, that suddenly the president may not always act, but he's watching and he's listening? Because talk about all these other scandals, whether it's corruption, Mavati, and all that. These stories were being covered by the media, including this very media house, but then there was no response from the president. The public was angry. Ugandans were exchanging on Twitter, but until the president stepped in and said, "Okay, now investigate this, now investigate that," and now he's referencing to things he was hearing, and I'm sure he was reading them in the monitor.
Absolutely. One of the things that maybe people cannot understand and agree to the fact that times have really moved from the formal and the really formal structures of saying CID, the IGG, and all those investigative arms of government are the ones in the things. It has now moved to a place where it's not just whistleblowers who go to the media. It's like media now has taken a very center stage, especially social media, taken a center stage in busting some of the rackets of corruption in this country, and it's already evident. And I know that President Museveni really recognizes that, and he has to swiftly change, because even in his body language yesterday and his speech and the words, regardless of the fact that he castigates Daily Monitor, he knows the role it plays. And I know for sure that most of the things that he was talking about, he was quoting directly from Daily Monitor stories and other social media channels. Whether he wants to act about them is a discussion for another day. But it's already long gone. He needs to act now. But when he talks about crushing, we shall crush the corrupt, we shall crush them. One day, once someone said he gave the four ways how Museveni deals with corruption: insults them, shouts at them, whistles at them, and calls them names. I don't know whether that helps.
All right, we'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, more of this discussion.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
933 KFM.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back from the break. You're listening to 933 KFM. This is the Friday panel of journalists, and standing in for Andrew Mwenda is me, Kwezi Tabaro. Today in studio, I'm joined by a panel of one active journalist and three pundits. That is Isaac Kayonde, I have Derek Wandera, Jimmy Achalam, and Frank Mujimba, and we're discussing the major stories of the week. Before we delve into the second story of the week, an update that Uganda Cranes is currently playing Botswana at Nambole Stadium. The match is part of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. That is for the World Cup in 2026. Gentlemen, Wonder, again, I'll start with you since you're active in the newsroom. A few weeks ago, Honorable Sechikubo starts collecting signatures in Parliament for the censure of 4 parliamentary commissioners that participated in this 1.7 billion bonanza. I don't know if we should call it a handshake or reward. Service award.
Quote unquote.
Service award, 1.7 billion. And in the first few days of the exercise, it looked like it was picking momentum, and suddenly that these commissioners were going to be sanctioned or at least removed from the parliamentary commission. But this week, it fizzled out, and some MPs have called for their signatures to be removed. What is happening?
No, actually, I don't think it has fizzled. When I interviewed the Honorable Sechikubo last week on Thursday, a story that ran on Sunday, he had about 123 signatures.
How many did he need?
He needs 177. It's a third of this, one third of
So he was missing about 52.
Yeah, but when I checked yesterday, he had about 167. So he really has moved, especially with the coming back of the House. The House, he complained of the House being prologued. Some NRM members coming in to say, hey, NRM, don't take part in this. And then he also talked about blackmail and buying out, by the way. Some people were being given money.
By who?
By some leadership within NRM or Parliament. And he doesn't mention names, of course, on the record, but he does off the record. So when I interviewed him...
Who are these leaders in NRM, and who are they shielding? Are they shielding the commissioners?
Yeah, they're shielding the commissioners. He talks about the government whip who wrote a message on that's Samson Oboa on their platform of SEC, saying that no, of government whips, saying that please NRM do not take part in this signatures thing until NRM passes a resolution. I understand there was supposed to be an NRM caucus this week, which hasn't happened. Probably it's going to happen next week. But I think by next week, Wednesday, when I last talked to the Honorable Sechikubo early today, he told me by next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we will have the signatures home and square. I don't think the progress has fizzled, in as much as we are having some of the ministers, including those from the opposition, coming out to withdraw their signatures and stuff. But I know he is very happy that people have come back to Parliament, and he will be able to sway more to his desk at the entrance of Parliament than he has done, because he's been working with literally calling people from the field, Koboko, wherever, tell them come and sign, and some of them have been signing. And if you have 123 as of last week before they came back, I think he's going to have those signatures, and the progress is not that bad, regardless of the stories that are coming back.
So how does it end? Do you see the 4 commissioners being sanctioned?
I think it's going to go to the floor. And then it's going to be squared there. And in as much as he gets the 177 signatures, where he's optimistic he could even make 200, going on the floor and swaying 3/3 of the House as quorum is another daunting task that he has, but also have the majority vote to his motion. He has very many big advantages and very many big disadvantages. And one of the advantages is the NRM is torn between censuring their own and then saving Mpuga. because most of the people who have been supporting.
Why would NRM be concerned about saving people?
Because then that taints the name of NRM in terms of how they have been critical in fighting this. Because remember, Mpuga had his own beating within his member party, but the NRM did not take any decision. So if they support the move, then that means that they are going to be already putting themselves in the limelight, that they don't have that urge of fighting corruption, which the NUP already took a stand on. But then he will have that very, very big task of swaying the House to himself, which I think he could, because the 3 MPs are already black sheep within NRM. They have termed them very arrogant. They have termed them very obsessive and very powerful, and they speak a lot of things. But hey, 197 members of NRM applied to be commissioners, but only 3. So there's a big fight, and that's why I think that they are going to be censured.
Isaac, do you think this is about the commissioners? Because yes, he may still get the signatures and all that, but there's a complication that if you have this debate on the floor of the House and you remove these commissioners, then next would likely be the Speaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you think the Speaker would entertain this?
No, I don't think it will get there. I have also been following the numbers. It has taken him close to how many weeks to get to 100?
3 weeks?
About 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks, huh?
Yeah,
and
the hurdles of MPs are not in the House.
Yeah, MPs. Yeah. I agree. But now they have come back. But I believe NRM may get a hold of their members. But the thing is about this, and I've listened to Semu Drews, the people you would have expected to lead and rally behind is the hypocrisy behind it. So one of the issues that is very contentious about signing is that was this money budgeted for? And it's obvious that this money definitely was budgeted for. What they might not have understood or seen were the finer details of that budget. Because I don't think today the Parliamentary Commission or the parliamentary budget is about 900 billion going into next year. There are only about 550 MPs. If you on average each is earning 30 million shillings, in a year it's about 160 billion, right? And then, okay, let's look at the staff. Even if they're 1,000, each earning 15 million plus drivers, that's another 150 billion. That's 300 billion. The budget is 900 billion. Has anybody gone to look into what that 900 billion is going to do? So they will pass, and indeed they have already passed the budget, right? So they have passed 900 billion. But I bet you, the other day I was talking to one of the MPs and asked him, okay, so 900 billion, what is the 600 billion going to do? And he says, that's the budget. So for me, it's a question of he might try to get to the floor.
And that is Honorable Sechkubo
and his group. They might try to get to the floor. But even if they get to the floor, they will not, it will have zero impact, because there has also been that allegation that they are trying to use this to censure the Speaker. I don't think...
But they've said it clearly. They said, Madam Speaker, we're not after you.
Yeah, all of them seem to be... to give a comfort. But
you see the Speaker's allies not really interested in this debate.
Yes.
If you see people like Honorable Samjing and Honorable Abdul Katun staying away, and yet they've been anti-corruption crusaders in the past.
Yeah, because the money given to our parliament is a lot of money. You just have to find ways to consume it. I mean, this is the biggest, the way I look at it, this is a moral question more than a legal question. Because morally, I'm not, my conscience is, it's not right for commissioners, for 5 people to sit around and
but also you get a service award after delivering a service. Some of these people received money when they were just beginning their term of service. So what were they being rewarded for?
That is the contention. I mean, the budget, look at the budget. The budget was given before this year. So what were the MPs passing in the previous budget? If you're claiming that it was not in the budget, what were you passing in the previous budget? So for me, those are details that will be sorted out on the floor. But again, like I said, the hypocrisy is that everybody picks on because it now is almost silly season, the political season. Everybody is looking for, relevance and visibility. So they are bound to do certain things, and I think that's what Sechikubo is doing.
All right, we'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, the last segment of this show.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
933 KFM.
KFM's Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
You're listening to 933 KFM. This is the Friday edition of the Hot Seat. Standing in for Andrew Mwenda is me, Kwezi Tabaro. And in this last segment of the Friday Hot Seat, we want to shift gears to the recently concluded election in South Africa, where 30 years later, since the return of multi-party democracy in that rainbow nation, the African National Congress, the ruling party there, has now lost its lead after failing to garner over 50% of the vote, and they will be forced into a coalition. There are already talks on whether the ANC will join the majority white Democratic Alliance or the splinter Umkhonto weSizwe that is headed by former President Jacob Zuma. I saw a tweet earlier today from the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, EFF, of Mr. Malema, saying that they are not about to enter coalition talks with the ANC. I want to start with you, Jimmy. I know many analysts had predicted that it would be very hard for the ANC to secure a majority, but how does a coalition government look like for the ANC? And with whom do they form a coalition?
Most likely will be forced to talk to the Democratic Alliance, the White Party. Malema cannot, as he said, cannot work with the ANC. And then MK Zuma's MK, they have that friction. I don't know if they can have any negotiation with ANC. So they'll be forced now to deal with the White Party.
But what does that mean for many ANC members who still have fresh memories of apartheid and who have very strong views, especially on ownership of the economy, black empowerment, and things like that? That 30 years after this independence, you're going into a coalition government with the Democratic Alliance.
To begin with, I think it shows how the management of the economy, the inequalities and things like that, ANC hasn't done very well. And to work with the Democratic Alliance will be a last resort because you have to anyway form and have like 50%. So if you're cornered, what do you do? It's now a thing of negotiation, whether the people like it or not. To form a government, you have to now go into a coalition. And who do you talk to? Others say that they are willing to talk, like the Democratic Alliance or even, but they do not want Ramaphosa to be president. So it becomes very complicated. So how the negotiation goes is something that...
But also who becomes deputy president? Because it's always been that the deputy president of the ANC takes over the party from the president. So in this case, is the gentleman called Mashatile or something like that? He will have to, he will have to step down. But I want to... Yes, Isaac.
I would just point out...
And this segment is very short, so keep it a minute or two.
I've been following. I think the museum was something.
Umkhonto weSizwe, MK party.
Yes, MK has decided to has conditioned their alliance to Ramaphosa stepping down, and because of the bad blood between Ramaphosa and Zuma, and I don't see that happening given the fact the strongman effect with ANC. What has been said is that ANC is likely to go for the other fringe parties. DA is a no-go because for them they also have significant support. Malema is a radical and he has chosen his path. So I'm really seeing ANC aligning.
But will they be able to make up 6% from the fringe parties?
Yes.
And many of them, I think some had signed an agreement with the DA.
41?
44.
44, I think.
41.
It was 41, the one. Yeah.
So they'll need at least 9%.
9%. Malema has what, like 9 or 8?
About 9%.
9. Mkoto has 12.
14, about 14 or 12%.
But anyway, whichever it is, the ANC would prefer the MK, and they have said that
because this is a splinter group of the ANC, they don't disagree on much.
So it's just a question of whether Ramaphosa will allow to step down and move on.
Yes, I want to come to you, Frank. What does the NRM think? Is this a precursor to what might happen?
You think the NRM is also going to lose the majority maybe in
2031?
I really don't see
that in 2031.
But you people have accused the NRM of NRM of controlling the Electoral Commission, controlling the army, and whatever organ in this country that.
No, but you see, in 2031 or 2036, with President Yoweri Museveni out of the picture, a coalition between NRM and NUP may not be far off.
You see, Kwezi, maybe if anything like a coalition is to be mentioned here in Uganda, that must be after President Museveni. And I really agree that after President Museveni, then we can actually sit and agree how we can make a coalition government in this country, so that the system is not that winner takes it all, and because also other people have voters, have people who really believe in them, so a coalition government can be formed, and these people take the country forward. But going back to South Africa, I think South Africa is facing about 5 challenges, things like crime, unemployment in that country, power outages, water shortage. So any of the parties that has a manifesto that tries to address these challenges, I think would work. But majorly the coalition could come between ANC and then the DA, because MK has already said they cannot form a coalition with Ramaphosa, who pushed Jacob Zuma out. And then when you look at Malema, he says if he is to get into the coalition, then he has to be given the position of finance minister, which is a little bit hard. So I think DA remains the only, because if you go into forming coalition, there are so many small parties, it might be hard for you to raise, because if you go into a coalition with DA, then I think that is a direct coalition. If there are just 2 parties and you share how you lead the country.
Derek?
It's a very difficult one, but I think it's something I've talked about. The ANC will certainly have to be forced to go for the fringe parties that have and collect that, because the issue is about making 10% or 9 point something percent to cross to the 50 plus 1%, and of course DA, looking at the DA's ideology and things like that, it's not anywhere close to having that negotiation. When you look at MK is very serious.
And for Ugandans, MK is not
Hosi. It's Mkoto wa Siziwe. So it came into this as a disruptive party. It did not come to it was very sure they were not going to win, but they were going to certainly create that very huge walk away from ANC, and which they have done, and probably is the reason why ANC is where it is right now. So it's very unlikely, and the negotiations are going to be tough. But and then looking at, of course, EFF, they have played their part over the time, is to set the agenda for South Africa, that the government is doing this. They are the ones who are going to stand up and say this is supposed to be done like this and stuff, and they have controlled that power and that position. Which
but they've lost their number 3 position. They are now
they certainly have lost and have lost their position. But just know that the coming of MK disrupted politics in South Africa. So you look at ANC going for the small fringe parties, come collect them together, have the 9 point something, and then move on.
Or even
All
the
right,
small budget.
gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time we had today. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, our dear listeners. We'll be right back next week to discuss even more stories. Good night.